What is up? What is up? What is up, everybody? It's Hobby with Cage, episode 93. It's been a minute. Nice little weekend, little break. I come back here. We'll keep it short, as I've done the last few weeks. On Monday, I'm recording this during halftime of the NFL. Although I will tell you, in previous weeks, it was like, "Hey, Austin Eckler, you got to get me, 500 yards." This week, Ian and our team was ahead by 5 points. The other guy was done, and we still had Eckler, Garrett Wilson, and Brees Hall to go. So a pretty easy one today, a little fantasy. Both our teams won, turned it around, got some winning streaks in the hobby league. My team is about to move to 8-1 with a nice 2-game lead over anybody else in the hobby thing, I think. With the most points scored. Pretty dominant, I gotta say, to the other guys in my league who listen to this. You gotta step your game up a little bit. Come on. I mean, you're making this too easy for me to take your money. Anyway, no more fantasy talk. We waste a minute on that, but it's a different week. I've come in kind of beaten up by fantasy, kicked in the balls by fantasy, and last couple weeks we've done a little bit better in fantasy. Made a trade a couple weeks ago for CD Lamb. Gave up a lot for CD Lamb, but he's had a couple good weeks in a row for me. I gave up Gus Edwards. Dude's had 5 touchdowns. Pretty crazy. So anyway, a couple things to talk about tonight. Right off the bat, what I want to talk to you about is I got a great question. Somebody who I've spoken with, seen in person at card shows and stuff, but I've spoken with a lot over IG, is selling a lot of their collection through consignment. Probstein gets stuff, PC gets stuff, you name it. And, told me about all the cards they were selling, all the stuff they were sending out, sort of like, the audit that we talk about in our collection. None of these cards are the ones that I need to have. I can consolidate. I can use this money to buy cards I do want. And then it was, hey, we're all hearing about the quote unquote hobby doldrums, the doldrums of the hobby that, November and December are usually cold times in the market, and there are usually hotter times in the market. And, should I pull these back and not sell them all? Should I wait until February or March or April? And, what's funny about it is I remember talking about this. You do 1,100, 1,200 episodes or whatever it is that I've done now in the last 3.5 years. And I think you talk about everything, but I'm sure if you go back 3 years ago, it probably was talking about how, if you look at the charts, February, the prices are up, they're high, and they're peaking. You see, some of those record sales and Golden auction and PWCC auction, and because February you got the Super Bowl, and basketball's picking up. You got a little baseball preseason. People are starting to talk about like spring training and stuff, and it's just people start to get excited about cards, and there's a lot going on. But here's the thing. What I will tell this person, I'll tell you guys what I told this person and why. There's a lot going on in the world, a lot going on in the hobby, and I was sort of in this boat. Last year, I had a LeBron to sell, a big LeBron to sell. And I said, you know what? Let's hold it. Let's not sell it in November and December. Even though, the NBA is starting off and, it's a little hot right now, let's not sell it because, you got the doldrums of the winter here, that prices sort of, are down this time and, it's not as much hobby activity. Let's hold it. Let's hold until February when he's going to break the scoring record and people are starting to buy again and, people are starting to spend their money. And the card sold for less than it would have sold for because comparable cards sold in October, November, and December for more. So I know it cost me money to hold on to it. And why? Well, because for the last couple of years, yes, the hobby has picked up, but it's also taken a huge dive before any kind of a pickup. So let me clarify what I'm saying. The overall market has just continued to do this, and this. So I guess what I would say to anybody who's looking to sell is sell. Sell now. The best time to sell your stuff is yesterday, right? And most people, unless you're in a couple of little pockets like the very inorganic, very manipulated, very heavily cartel-like pricing arrangements that are going on with the Michael Jordan 90s inserts and high grades. Unless you're in that world where I kind of don't really buy most of the pricing that I see anyway, I think it's propped up, manipulated, and fugazi. But every other section of the hobby is down. Everything else is down. I don't know, even high grade Mickey Mantle cards. You saw that last PSA 8 sell for 1.1 million, almost 1.2 million. Like, wow, that's a good price. It's higher than the last couple eights, but that particular same card sold for $2 million. Even that's down. And I think the best time to sell is immediately. If you're looking to sell, right? I think you'll be able to, use that capital in a month, 2, 3 to buy something else at a cheaper price. Why do I say that? Not because I'm a hobby pessimist or anything like that, but because if you look at the charts, that's just what has happened over the last couple of years now, not the last couple of months, right? You hit those COVID highs and we have just steadily decreased in price to a point where I remember a year ago, April, May of last year thinking to myself, all right, some of these cards had to have hit their bottoms. Hey, be careful trying to catch a falling knife. I'm a very big fan of, Josh Cardboard Chronicles. I remember coming on here in May of last year after he put a couple of stories up about the Kevin Durant white refractor in PSA 10 rookie and the LeBron James chrome refractor in PSA 10 rookie. And I remember him saying right in his story, I think these things have hit a floor. And you look at the chart and you saw it was kind of one of these like, that LeBron was like $200,000. It was insane during the run-up. And here it was, according to, his post, it was like 80, then it was like 70, 60, 65, like in that range. And you started to see sort of like that, that little chart, that bottom forming, at least what it looked like. And I remember buying one, not just because he said it, because I agreed. I always wanted to get one of those cards and was hopeful that, it would return to not 200, but maybe do a little bit of a round trip back to 100 because it was such an iconic card and everybody loved it and the whole deal. So I thought I was buying it at a low. Meanwhile, I just sold that card a year and change later for half of what I paid for it. And here's the ridiculous part of that. I think it keeps going down. I don't see any reason for that card to go up from where it is now at all. That's why I sold it. I think it continues to retreat. Not just because of the hobby retreating, but that's part of it. I think we're in store for a little bit of an economic tightening. Now, sure, there is the hobby kind of malaise for the holidays. And, people are going to be spending more money in the holidays. And unless you're, in that retail space where people want to buy some sealed wax or like a holiday something or other for a gift for somebody, chances are the spend is not going to be on your singles and not going to be on your cards. And people are taxed a little more these next couple of months because they are trying to pay for the holidays, whether they're going on vacation or, they're setting up their holiday, their decorations, buying presents, you name it, people are budgeting for that. So the discretionary spend that they otherwise might have had to put on cards is not going to be there for that. It's now on video games and Apple gift cards and the new phone and, somebody's getting a pet or whatever it might be. Those holiday gifts take precedent and more often than not, your holiday gift for your family member is not going to be that LeBron Chrome card or anything like that. So that alone is a start. But I mean, we're going to see like the unemployment numbers were not so great. The last report that came out last week, we're going to see some tightening in that regard. And, I believe still that the next couple of months are not going to be the best employment picture, not going to be the best economic picture. I do think it turns around in 2024, but just for the short term, I think, people are going to be faced with, budgeting some money. And am I going to take this extra money I have and buy sports cards with it, or am I going to put it in a rainy day fund, or am I going to use it to pay my bills is kind of, where I'm going with it. And when that happens, I'm a believer that most people are not going to be putting their money in cards. Now, if you have the discretionary income and the cards come down, it might be a good time to buy. It's sort of that old Warren Buffett, be fearful when everybody else is greedy and be greedy when everybody else is, afraid. That makes sense, And if you're in a position where you have enough and no worries about, the overall broader economy, and there will probably be some bargains for you in the next 6 months or a year, as long as you're willing to hang on to it for a little while. But to me, the question of, do I sell now or hang on, over the last, I would say 18 months, anybody who has held on and said, I'm going to wait because when I sell in a couple of months, I'm going to get a better price because of the, cyclical, unless you're trying to time out, like I bought rookie quarterbacks a couple of months before anybody was looking for them, and I immediately sold them before the season. Like that kind of stuff still works for the most part. But if you're just talking about your own collection, not seasonality, just, old cards, vintage cards, which is a lot of what this person is selling, I would just, move them now. And I think, every week or every month that you hang on to them, you're missing out on probably a little bit more. I believe this, if you look at the charts, we're seeing one of these kind of things. I think you can continue to see that kind of slow bleed into the holidays and beyond. That's just my take. I could be dead wrong here, guys. I've been wrong before. But even trying to time things out right, the LeBron that I was talking about that I sold him, I sold it literally the auction ended the night that he was breaking the scoring record, and it didn't matter if I would have sold it, when the season opened or before the season even started, or at any point before that, it would have sold for more. And I'll just carry that LeBron story forward. I sold it in February of this year. The same exact card, not a similar one, same exact card has sold twice since I sold it. Twice. And each time for significantly less money. Each time. So I know it's just one card. I know it's just one, piece of data, one data point. But it's a big card. It's a card that everybody knows. And what it shows me is that had I sold it earlier, I would have probably sold it for more. By waiting, I sold it for less. Then the person who bought it from me sold it for even less. And the person who bought it from them sold it for even less. And I have a feeling if it came up for sale again tomorrow, it would sell for even less again. Now, this is not a permanent thing, but it is the market right sizing. It is the market finding the right price for these things after a significant run up. And most of these cards that we talk about are still way higher than they were, even if you just did like a 5-year chart. If you look at like 2018, not just like when COVID started in 2020, you look at 2018, 2019, the vast majority of cards are up significantly from there. Sure, some have come down. And, it's to be expected. I do believe that once we do kind of see the economy right sizing itself, the economy, righting the ship next year towards the second half of next year, and the hobby has taken enough of a, fix that chart again, get rid of this and just have this. We've talked about this for years. You can be fine there. But I also implore you guys to ask yourself what you're doing here in the hobby. Because anybody who came in, in the last couple of years and saw that, crazy run up in value, saw the ability to flip these things, and is just saying, I'm going to buy it now because that flippy dippy, those times are going to come back. Those times where I can buy something now and sell it for 2 or 3 times the amount of money in a month or 2 or 3, those are going to come back. I don't think so. Look at most charts. You're going to see most charts are pretty stagnant with, some small growth, some appreciation in value, but none of this, crazy spikes, none of these kind of like boom cycle that we had. And I don't know that we see another boom cycle like that for a very long time, if ever. So I spent 15 minutes here talking about one question that I got, which is, hey, should I hang on to these things? Again, could be very wrong. I think if you're in a sell mode, sell now, sell and don't look back. leads me to my next thing, because we talk about the holidays, right? I mean, I do think the holidays are, they traditionally are not the best time to sell your cards. But I just think right now the seasonality of it doesn't make a difference. But for the holidays, if I had one wish, it would be that maybe the right sizing of the hobby, the resetting of the hobby, and the pricing and all that stuff also allows for a reset of the manufacturer's release dates. Because man, would I love the injection we would get into this hobby, the excitement we would get now, the amount of money that would be coming in, the excitement would come in if we had NFL Prism right now and CJ Stroud dropped 470 yards and 5 touchdowns this week. And I would love to see what would happen to his Prism base card, his silver. Forget about the numbered cards and the whole deal. And I'm not even talking about the high-end stuff, because, hell, they're still dropping high-end stuff from last year, basically. I mean, the basketball products are still coming out in last year's products. Forget about having the ability to buy a Wemby Prism. That'll probably come out, when the season's over, right? But, man, that would be like a holiday wish for me. If we get back to a, legitimate schedule where you were actually able to, have the rookie cards of you. I was in one of my group chats and somebody said, hey, who needs cards when you have sports betting, when you have Vegas? And they showed a parlay, they did the whole deal. And, and of course I had to answer back, congrats on your win, but I had to answer back also with a, that was part of the excitement of cards. You were able to say, what, I think that, CJ Stroud's going to have a great game this week. Let me go and buy some of his cards in the lead up. And then boom, he has this great game and I can sell him. You don't really have that anymore, right? It's just better to bet on Stroud's over on his yards or, his touchdowns, or, bet that they're going to win the game, or wherever you want to go, because, that's getting you the same, like, hey, I have a feeling about Stroud. I think he's going to have a great game today. And boom, I'm able to play him in daily fantasy, wherever it is. Part of what allowed this, this fun run up was, for that crowd that is in it for, the flip, you were able to buy those cards and flip them based on the on-field performance. And the cards that people want are just not out yet. And, I think if Prism was out, we would see some real excitement right now from people who bought Stroud early on and bought him in the, the first weeks or in the lead up. And now we're watching him have this, record setting rookie performance and could cash in on being right on their guy. And I think we're losing some of that excitement. And I'm sure there's some collectors out there who are listening saying, so what? That's not what the hobby's supposed to be. I'm supposed to just be able to collect the cards that I want. And, who cares? We're not supposed to have the flippy dippy going on. Fine, valid. But you have to realize that part of the reason, probably a good part of the reason, that the money that these cards were worth, what the run and the value that was in those cards is that flippy dippy, is the new blood that came in, the gambling blood, the flipping blood, the breaking blood, the guys who like that quick hit. And, if that release, that Prism release were out and people were able to have them and grade them and have a PSA 10 slab of a silver, all of a sudden you'd be seeing some cool stories, some cool posts, some cool buys, people coming in to buy that card on eBay, wherever it is, more money in the system. The people who were able to take their chance on him during the season, instead of when the season's already over and no one wants it anymore, would have more money to continue to keep in the hobby ecosystem. And, so this is a holiday thing. We're talking about, 2 parts to the holiday. Number one, selling now, even though, the lead up in the 2 months to the holidays are usually not the greatest time to sell anyway. And number 2, give me my holiday wish. If I could have a holiday wish, Panini, Topps, you guys get back on schedule. It's just so much more fun when you're able to buy your guy, watch the game, and say, look at the cards I have of my guy. That's it. There's the deal. Good luck out there, guys. And, last 30 seconds. Man, Wemby, I was not a believer. Some of the stuff he's doing at 19 and just, if he actually trains and grows into his frame, and there's a lot of ifs. And take it from somebody who watched Shaq, it's a very different comparison. I mean, Shaq, I think, averaged 26 and 16 in his first 5 games. So, his numbers blow Wemby's numbers out of the water. And just for a season, I think he averaged like 13 boards. Wemby's not going to have that. But he does play a very different game. This is a kid who should win Defensive Player of the Year, maybe even this year, definitely early on in his career. And the offensive game is just very different. It's not a bull rush like Shaq. There's some finesse. I mean, he basically Euro steps from halfway between the foul line and the three-point line without a dribble. Man, he covers so much ground with the stride. He's got a three-point shot, which hasn't really been spectacular yet, but in 5-6 games, Anyway, and I got a bunch of Wembys, so woo, they'll be all gone soon. So, if you hear this and you want to Wemby, reach out. Talk to you guys soon. I'm going to go enjoy the second half of this game. Bye, everybody.